Well, the Cairo Declaration of Human Rights in Islam was adopted by the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. It was not the name at this time. Islamic Organization of Islamic Cooperation changed name recently. So it was adopted in 1990. In the preamble of this document, we have a very interesting statement. Keenly, this is the text of this declaration. Keenly aware of the place of mankind in Islam as vice-regent of Allah on earth. From the start, we see that this declaration considers mankind in Islam as vice-regent, that is, kind of sub-commander of Allah on earth. It raises the issue of equality. Following in the preamble, agrees to issue the Cairo Declaration of Human Rights in Islam that will serve as a general guidance for member states in the field of human rights. General guidance, that is, the signatories of this declaration agrees to follow the rules defined in this declaration, and especially in the field of human rights, which is interesting in this assembly. Always in preamble, agrees to issue the Cairo Declaration on Human Rights in Islam that will serve as a general guidance. So, human rights, I emphasize the human rights importance. Recognizing the importance of issuing a document on human rights in Islam that will serve as a guide again, not the word, for member states in all aspects of life, which is encompass more than only human rights, religion plus politics. This Cairo Declaration clearly set a second definition of the human rights, and we will look at the content of this declaration. It won't be an exhaustive examination of this declaration, but only the key points, and you will see that they are raising some issues again. Article 1. All men are equal in terms of basic human dignity and basic obligation and responsibilities. Rights. Where is the word rights? Equal in terms of basic human dignity. We speak about human rights, and we have no mention of right, equal right for everybody. Article 1. All human beings are Allah's subjects. It raises the issue of freedom. If you don't consider yourself as a subject of Allah, you have a problem. Yes, subject of Allah, freedom of religion. In the USA human right, you have freedom of religion. It's a fundamental right. It seems to be ignored in this declaration. And no one has superiority over another except on the basis of pity and good deeds. It raises an issue about democracy. If you have no authority over people except on the basis of pity and good deeds, how can you work a democratic state where the states, by the power of the law, have authority over people? It is prohibited to take away life except for a Sharia prescribed reason. Self-explanatory. Sharia gives reason to take away life. And we will see Sharia prescribed reasons. So when we speak about Sharia, usually a lot of people try to explain to you that there is no common Sharia for everybody. Islam is very different and practice are very different around countries. But in this document you will note that all people of OIC, that is anti-Muslim community, speak about Sharia, not Sharias. Sharia, there is apparently for them a Sharia. And this Sharia gives prescripted reason to kill people. What kind of So I will use a document, an official document, Radiance of the Traveler and Tools of the Worshipper. This is a classical manual of Islamic sacred law. This translation was certified by Al-Azhar University. So we can consider it as an official document which has some value. So, when a person who has reached puberty and insane voluntarily apostatizes from Islam, he deserves to be killed. This is not a legend. It's a Sharia-prescribed reason to kill people. Another reason, penalty for fornication or sodomy. The legal penalty is obligatory imposed upon anyone who fornicates or commits sodomy. If the offender is someone with the capacity to remain chaste, then he or she is stoned to death. This is not a legend. This is written. This is a Sharia prescribed reason. And jihad. Jihad is a communal obligation. When enough people perform it to successfully accomplish it, it's no longer obligatory upon others. A communal obligation. And what is jihad? Because it seems to have several definitions of jihad. Here we have a definition of jihad. Jihad means to war against non-Muslims. It's signifying warfare to establish the religion. So it's not a legend. It's a Sharia prescribed reason to kill people. So, enough with Sharia, come back to the Cairo Declaration. Article 3. In the event of the use of force and in case of armed conflict, it's not permissible to kill non-belligerents such as old men, women and children. In the event of use of force, no more precision. You can apparently use force in some occurrence. Killing men, then, seems to be allowed in this case. I remind you that this document is a document speaking of human rights. Article 6. Woman is equal to man in human dignity and has an all rights to enjoy as well as duty to perform. No equality of right. Her own right. She is equal in dignity, not in right. Article 15. Confiscation and sale of property is prohibited except for a necessity dictated by law. What law? Sharia law. 17. Everyone shall have the right to live in a clean environment away from vice and moral corruption, and it is incumbent upon state and society in general to afford that right. We see that concepts like vice and moral corruption, which are clearly not universal, should be enforced if you apply this declaration. And the law, once again, is Sharia law. There shall be no crime or punishment except as provided for in the Sharia. The only reference about crime or punishment is Sharia. What about international standard of justice? They have vanished in this declaration. 22. Everyone shall have the right to express his opinion freely in such manner as would not be contrary to the principle of the Sharia law. Where is freedom of speech? 24. All the rights and freedoms stipulated in this declaration are subject to the Islamic Sharia. In case you've missed it, this is very clear. 25. The Islamic Sharia is the only source of reference for the explanation or clarification on any of the articles of this declaration. This is perfectly clear. So, this Cairo Declaration clearly created a second set of human rights. defined and curtailed by the Sharia law. Sharia law. The European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg, 13 February of 2003, said Sharia law is incompatible with democratic principles. This is very clear, and for European people, this has force of law. Don't forget that every European state has to respect judgment from this court. This is not my opinion. This is quite official. So, we can deduce from that Cairo Declaration is compatible with the democratic principles and human rights. So, a question is raised. What statute for the Cairo Declaration signatories in OSCE? Endorsing the Cairo Declaration and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights at the same time is clearly impossible. So, but today, members of OIC signatories of the Cairo Declaration are also OIC members. How is it possible? Well, but we find some explanation. Again, in this book of Sharia, giving a misleading impression means to utter an expression that ostensibly implies one meaning, while intending a different meaning in the expression may also have one that contradicts the ostensive purpose. It's a kind of deception. Well, deception is bad. No. Scholars say that there is no harm in giving a misleading impression if required by an interest countenanced by sacred law, that is Sharia. That is more important than not misleading the person being addressed. This could explain the use of human rights with a dual meaning. We hear human rights as universal human rights. Some people mean human rights as Cairo Declaration human rights. Same word, different meaning. Well, what's the key of this riddle? In the Cairo Declaration preamble, the safeguarding of those fundamental rights are freedom, and freedom, this is a word for Sharia, I put Sharia, is an individual responsibility of every person and a collective responsibility of the entire human, that is a community of all Muslims on the earth. It's a religious obligation for Ummah to disseminate and promote Sharia law. Some Ummah members are doing exactly that within the OSCE. Using dual words is a way to promote Sharia without saying exactly that. You speak about human rights, but it is not exactly our human right. And that's clearly a problem. International assemblies should address this problem. At some point, you cannot pretend to speak about the same human right when the meaning is clearly different. It needs to be explained. You can be boss. Okay, it's your right. But you have to explain what meaning of human right when you use the words human rights. This is very important. Without this condition, any dialogue is absolutely impossible. You cannot speak if words, you cannot discuss honestly if words don't have the same meaning for everybody. It needs to be clarified, and the statute of people endorsing the Cairo Declaration need to be discussed in assemblies where human rights are discussed. It's clearly a necessity. And the Brussels process and Brussels Declaration is a document that address this issue. Yes, this is a very important point. We clearly advocate for a total rejection of the Cairo Declaration on human rights as a basis for any discussion on human rights and civil liberty. And if some participants try to use
definitions of human rights issued from this Cairo Declaration, it's clearly to be rejected by people endorsing the human rights as they are known.